Hello, my name is Noor Ashifa Shakira binti Azizan, and I will tell you that family financial stories are more than just personal experiences. They represent an important part of our cultural and social identity. These stories reflect how different generations think about money, shaped by the history, culture, and economy of their time. In Malaysia, family financial practices have been influenced by colonial legacies, rural to urban migration, increasing access to education, and the rise of the digital economy. Each of these factors has left a unique impact on how families manage, save, and invest their money. The aim of our project is to explore financial stories across three generations: grandparents, parents, and young adults. By looking at their financial habits, values, and challenges, we can see how money management has evolved over time. Most importantly, these intergenerational insights allow us to identify lessons that can help build stronger financial futures. Through this study, we hope to highlight not just the differences between generations, but also the values and practices that can be carried forward.
Grandparent generation survival and simplicity. Let's begin with the economic environment of our grandparent generation. Most of them lived during the pre and post-independence years, when agriculture was the backbone of the economy. Farming, rubber taping, and small-scale trading were common sources of income, especially in rural areas. At that time, access to bank was very limited, so family turned to informal method of saving, where was often stored in gold, jewelry, and small plot of land, or through community saving group known as a kutu. This method were practical, safe, and rely heavy on trust within the community. For example, a grandfather might buy a small piece of land to grow fruit trees. This not only provided food for the household but also served as a form of long-term security and inheritance for the family. Next, let's look at their spending habits. Money was managed with great care and usually spent only on basic needs such as food, clothing, and education for children. Luxury or unnecessary items were rarely purchased because income was limited and every cent had to be stretched carefully. Many families also practice self-sufficiency to reduce expenses. They plant vegetables, raise chicken, or sew clothes at home. For instance, school uniforms were often reused by younger siblings instead of buying a new ones, which helped parents save money for more important needs. This lifestyle reflected the principle of living within their means, where survival and practicality was always come first. Finally, let's talk about the value tied to the money in this generation. For our grandparents, money was not about wealth or status. It was about survival, stability, and family responsibility. The priority was always to feed the family, keep a roof over their heads, and make sure children could go to school. They practiced strong financial discipline because income was uncertain and often seasonal. Debt was generally avoided unless it was absolutely necessary, as borrowing could create heavy burdens and even embarrassment for the family. For example, instead of taking a loan to build a house, many grandparents saved little by little, buying materials step by step until the house could be complete without debt. A clear example of their values can also be seen in how grandmothers saved through gold jewelry. For them, gold was more than just an decoration. It was a form of financial security. During emergency, it could be sold, but in many cases, it was carefully kept and later passed down as inheritance. This shows both their discipline and their commitment to leaving something valuable for the next generation.
For the change after NEP, urbanization, structure, debt and financial aspiration. It is a post-NEP, which is a new economic policy change. It also increased focus on Bumiputra economic participation, expansion of education opportunities such as scholarship and universities, and growth of middle-class society. Urbanization happens when people move from rural areas to cities, mainly to find a better job opportunities. As more people live in cities, the demand for housing, transportation, and modern facilities increase. At the same time, urban residents are more exposed to consumer culture, which is influence their lifestyle, spending habits, and aspiration. Structured debt refer to planned loans that many urban families take to improve their life. For example, the government housing loan offer affordable repayment schemes, making it easier to own a home. Car ownership is also seen as a necessity in urban areas, as it provides mobility for work and daily activities. On top of that, education loans such as PTPTN help students to pursue higher studies and build a better career opportunities. Final aspiration reflect the goals many urban families to aim for. People desire to own assets like house, car, and land as symbol of stability. At the same time, they invest in options such as SSD, tabung haji, or unit trust to secure their future. A big focus is also on children education and achieving a better living standard. For example, a father may take a government housing loan to provide a family home, while also investing in ASB to grow saving and prepare for his children's futures.
Hello everyone, today I will be talking about young adults' flexibility and risk in the modern economy. As we know, the digital economy has changed the way young adults live and work. With fintech, we now use e-wallets and online banking daily. This gives flexibility in managing money, but it also brings risks like overspending and scams. Next, lifestyle spending is another challenge. Many young adults spend on online shopping, food delivery, or subscriptions. While it provides convenience, it can also reduce savings and create financial stress. On top of that, student loans are a big burden. Many graduates start their careers already in debt, which limit their financial freedom. Some young adults also explore crypto and forex trading. These offer opportunities for quick profit, but the risks are high, as prices can change overnight. Without proper knowledge, losses can be huge. At the same time, the risk of gig work and freelancing has given young adults more flexibility. They can work from anywhere and choose their own projects. However, income is unstable and there's less job security compared to full-time employment. For example, imagine a fresh graduate. They use an e-wallet for daily payments. They do freelancing online to earn extra income and they try investing in cryptocurrency. This shows flexibility but also highlights the risk if spending and investing are not managed wisely. In conclusion, the digital economy provides young adults with many new opportunities, but it also requires carefully planning. Flexibility is important, but without managing risk, it can lead to financial problems.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So my name is Haris Hassan. So next up, let's move on to the key intergenerational lessons and challenges. So as you can see, by understanding the family stories, we can identify and understand the timeless lessons to adopt and persistent challenges that each generation has to face in its own unique way. And so we're going to explore why that is. So let's have a look at the four major financial challenges and actually see how each generation has faced them in a completely and their own unique way. So the first is the constant threat of inflation. Little that we know, it actually affects everyone throughout every generation, but our experience is what makes it different. For our grandparents, inflation was like a slow leak. They saw their hard-earned savings and the money they tried to put away at first, and then slowly it's losing a value over many years, and it was a long-term battle against losing the purchasing power. And for our parents' days, it was different. They had to navigate their careers and make a huge life decisions like buying a house, even though it's during a period of high inflation time. And this has directly shaped their salaries and the mortgage rates they paid for decades. And then there's us. For our generation, it feels like a slow leak and more like a sudden flood. We were getting hit with an intense rapid spike in prices and making it struggle just to cover the basic living costs and let alone to save for the future. And then the second challenge, that would be the navigating cultural issues and consumerism. And so let's talk about the cultural stuff. Our grandparents grew up with the motto, goes things like use it up, wear it out, make it do and do it out. And they valued every item that they possess and focus on what they truly needed. And fast forward to today, we are constantly overwhelmed or exposed by the flashy ads and social media feeds that kept telling us we need the newest, latest thing. And the pressure is to focus on what we want right now. And this has created confusion for many of us. Many of us were caught in a constant struggle between saving for a secure future and the powerful urge to spend on the things we desire today. And then there is the evolving burden of debt. So how we view debt has also completely transformed. In our grandparents' generation, debt was often seen as a sign of failure. The only acceptable debt was a mortgage to buy a home, a foundational asset. And in our parents' day, debt became a more acceptable tool. It was a way to get ahead, which is used for a car loan to get to a better job or to pay for a college education that promised a higher salary. And for our generation, debt often feels like an unavoidable starting point. Even myself, I'm in debt because of the PGTN I'm having. And so many of us begin our adult life already burdened by significant student loans. And it feels less like a tool and more like a financial handicap before our careers have even had a chance to begin. And for the last and not least is the bridging the technology gap. So finally, let's look at the technology. The digital revolution has changed everything, especially on how we manage the money. And for our grandparents, they always rely on a physical passbook and face-to-face interactions at the bank. And then in our parents' day, they have adapted to the next wave, which is the ATM and the first version of online banking on a desktop computer. And for our generation, we manage our entire financial life through complex apps on our phone. Like I said, this finger has every power that we need, from everyday banking to investing in stocks and even cryptocurrency. And this creates a huge digital gap, and it can leave the older generation feeling left behind and unfortunately more vulnerable to scams. This is why often cases scam issue is from aged people. And this technological divide is one of the biggest reasons we find it so hard to relate to each other's financial habits. So after looking at inflation, consumerism, debt and technology, it clears that no single generation experienced the right one. Each perspective was shaped by the world around it. And the goal isn't to decide who had it harder. The goal is to understand why we think so differently about how we manage our own money. And by recognizing these generational forces, we can start to have a more empathetic and productive conversation to be actually able to understand them. And by bridging the gap, we can start building a more secure financial future together. So we have talked about how different generations face unique financial challenges in their own way, but what can we actually learn from all of this? And we're going to distill those experiences into 3 powerful lessons that can help every one of us to be able to build a better financial future. First things off, there will be the power of perspective. So let's talk about the idea of financial security. It's not a one-size-fits-all concept. It contains from every people that gone through something, and it has evolved with each generation. For our grandparents, security was tangible. It was a profound peace of mind that came with a fully paid off house, which is a permanent roof over their heads. And for our parents, it shifted towards the long term, which is security meant building a robust retirement fund, like what we have here in Malaysia, which is EPF, and this is to ensure the comfortable life after work. And for our generation, security often means something different. Most likely like flexibility. It's about having multiple income streams that have their own freedom to adapt to the rapidly changing environment or situation. So the most important lesson is don't just inherit a definition of security, but you have to take the time to figure out what financial security truly means to you. And next up, there will be the value of communication. So what is it about the communications? In past generation, there was often an unspoken rule: you didn't talk about money. This is what we call money silence. And while it was well intentioned, this approach didn't make financial problems disappear. It just bottled up anxiety and crucially prevented important knowledge from being passed down from parent to the child. And this clear takeaway for us is that open and honest conversations about money is actually essential and important. And talking about finance is the foundation of building not just generational wealth, but it actually also helps for creating a genuine well-being and reducing stress for the entire family. And next one, the timeless wisdom endures. Perhaps the most powerful lesson is that while the tools have changed from passbook to the crypto wallets, the fundamental rules for a healthy financial life have always remained exactly the same. Those timeless truths are your foundation, which is first, to always live below your means. It's the golden rule. Second, to have a safety net, which is to build an emergency fund for unexpected events. Third, to always pay yourself first. Save a portion of your income before you actually spend on anything. And finally, avoid high interest consumer debt like the plague, and let your money work for you through the magic of compound interest. Since it's a modern time now, we have so much means on applications and technology we have to control our money. No matter how much the world changes, these core habits will always be the key to achieving the financial security. However, it's your choice to how to define it.
Hi, I'm Fadanisha and I will talk about implication for future. First, need for financial literacy. The future ones will need to be wiser about money options such as e-wallet, fintech and online investment. Without the knowledge, the risk of excessive spending, scam and poor investment. Second is striking a balance between the tradition and consumerism. First, grandparents are frugal, parents are stable young, adults are spent under pressure. And the causes for the future and combine both are cost of saving and using the modern financial opportunities. And third, managing debt better. first, grandparents did not want to be in the debt. Parents spend it without trouble, and young adults are in the debt. Future one for the improvement in the loan management, such as a student loan and planning implication. And lastly, closing the digital gap is the fear of the belief behind the older generation. The younger generation is over reliant on the technology. For the conclusion, each generation manage money differently. For the grandparents, are survival and simple living. Parents structured debt for the stability and dreams. And young adults, flexibility, raise digital economy. Timeless listen, live within your means, avoid the high interest debt, save consistently, saving security is dynamic and the change of the time. Future success depend on open dialogue, strong financial literacy, and balance between tradition and innovation.